Broadcasting live, this is the Handicappers Report, brought to you by the Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue, Albany, and CapitalOTBBet.com, the premier online wagering site in New York State. CapitalOTBBet.com. Sign up today.
Seth, Merrow. I'm Anthony Mormino and wearing my black-eyed Susan tie, I guess, or daisies with the center painted or something. What I don't know what the deal is. I know it's not really the flowers.
It's the wrong time of year.
It's the wrong time of year, which somehow strikes me as perfect. You can, just perfect, like for all of this. But first off, I want to say because, we I wouldn't say we kid so much. We're lighthearted enough, but we do love Mark Henning on the program. I've known him a long time. I try and be, very objective in this role as a media person, but so that's why I say it up front. It's like I like Mark very, very much. We've known each other since we both had brown hair. And Gunsong yesterday won the Black-Eyed Susan, and kudos to Mark and his team. And the other thing I noticed, and I've said this, and I'm hoping to remember to ask Mark the next time, but Lee Lewis, I think might be Mark's first client he got after Mark left certainly. Wayne Lucas. I mean, I'm hoping, but usually when I see him, I'm just happy to see him. We just start talking, and it never gets to that. Maybe I'll just email him a question about that. We're on Twitter together, and I said before, as the West Coast guy on this network, it seems, when Personal Hope won the Santa Anita Derby and went on to the Kentucky Derby, he had those bluish and greenish and hoop diamonds and everything, and they're kind of memorable silks. And as a trip handicapper, I always like those. And yesterday, those were the silks winning the Black-Eyed Susans with Gunsong, offspring of Gun Runner, if you could guess. So kudos to Mark Henning, who I'm still amazed somehow beats Naira with tweeting out off the turf. I've never understood how the person who makes the news isn't able to get it out first before people hear the news is reported. But Mark is almost always first. And, we do this show hours before, like, scratches come out and stuff like that. So Mark getting the off-the-turf information out is helpful to us on this desk, and we're lighthearted about it. But
I'm just looking here.
David Grenning's it's usually a race between Dave Grenning and Mark Henning who gets it out first.
I'm just looking to see if somebody tweeted out the buyer yesterday, because I'm going
to for her?
See, because I think she now becomes kind of a player in that division, you'd have to think. But I want to see the buyer to validate the performance yesterday. It looked good, but she got the favoritism because, again, the betting public likes the buyers, and the two buyers prior to her latest start going into that were very good, had a real edge on the field.
Well, she had a Gulfstream Park Oaks, and she came out.
The first time around two turns was not
she was
fruitful, but she had trouble. So this was the second time around two turns, and she passed the test nicely. But as I say, she had a couple mid-80 buyers in the two starts before the Gulfstream Park Oaks, and then went back to a 79. But I'm interested, and I just kind of looked at the usual suspects.
I'm going to guess probably high 80s. I don't think, I'm kind of glad, because I think I've been suspect of some of the buyer speed figures in big races, particularly the Derby. The horses never have repeated it. I've said this before. I believe in my lifetime a 92 has won the Kentucky Derby. I just fervently believe that.
Some of them do seem flattering.
Yes, a great word for it. So, and the other thing, we're not going to discuss this today because Seth has 14 races. I have Aqua. But one of the things I want to say about the scheduling of the Triple Crown, and I think this is one of the few things where I think I'm comfortable with both sides. I think the other side is wrong, but it's not a ridiculous wrong. But the fact that the Black-Eyed Susan and that the Preakness today has single-digit entrants, to me, is really the answer to why the spacing is wrong. The fact that Sierra Leone is not here today by, as you like to say, reverse engineering, tells me the timing's wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm comfortable with people that don't want to change it, but this is, and I actually got a few likes on this on Twitter. My argument is it makes it a better horse race. Isn't that our goal? That the Preakness, and by the way, if there was greater spacing and there was 14, I think 14 is the maximum field size for the Preakness, and Sierra Leone was in this race, don't you think that would be harder for Mystic Dan to win the Triple Crown, not easier? I don't think their argument stands up at all. And I think today's single-digit entrant for the Preakness, who was it last year? 2 Phils skipped it for the Ohio Derby. To me, that's reverse engineering telling you the spacing's wrong.
Yeah, I same in that.
And I've been on that boat forever.
I can go either way with this. And my thing is about extending it out there. I don't know whether people think of the unintended consequence. I think I mentioned last week, a couple weeks ago, that is it going to affect the early to mid to late summer 3-year-old
I have a thought on that too.
Haskell, Jim Dandy.
I was talking with our director before. I am now convinced, Seth, that the Kentucky Derby is not a horse race at all. That I don't think there are any unintended consequences. I think people are like, if Mystic Dan loses today, the Belmont Stakes is a completely different animal. I think it's back to you and me and people of our ilk that I'd love to see what the numbers are today on TV. Well, are they following the Mystic Dan approach? And here's the other thing, how NBC sells it today. When they show that photo finish, the other 2 guys aren't here. And that's a perfect indictment that the spacing's wrong. Now, obviously, Forever Young, there's some United States agricultural issues involved, but you get the point. If it had been 3 American horses,
it's actually Japanese issues, I think.
Right. That there are governmental issues involved.
People don't know it was if he stayed a certain amount of time when he went back to Japan. 3 months in quarantine?
Now, do you remember? You'll remember this. It was '86 when Bold Arrangement came over here. Actually, the European who did well. Ran behind Ferdinand. He was only allowed to have 2 starts, and he had to go back. So he ran in the Bluegrass for the prep, ran brilliantly in the Derby, but he had to go back. Yeah. They knew when he came, he could only be here for 60 days. They have
changed their rules.
Yeah, well, that's the I had brown hair then. That was a long time ago, So, but I think today's. I really think when you sit down and you look at anybody who's the traditionalist, and Todd Pletcher said, I've said it before. I had a list on my notes. Todd's only run like 8 horses in the Preakness, and 2 of them were his Derby winners. So you knew he had to go. I heard Todd interviewed one time, and he said his clients are New York people, so skipping the Preakness to him was a non-event. And then the other thing I've said is, and I know, if it was $3 million today, who's skipping it? So the purse has never been right, and I think the timing is wrong, and I think today's field indicates that it's wrong.
The field. Although I will say, as compared to the 3 days after the race, we wound up with a better field than I was anticipating right after the race. We'll get, 3 total out of the Derby.
And not...
Yeah, no, I'm not saying that's great, but it's better than I was anticipating getting the 1 in the few days afterward. I mean, it looked like...
We'll see. I
think it's shaped up to be kind of an interesting...
And obviously this year it's, completely different focus for the Capital Region, whether Mystic Dan wins or not. Although I do think... actually, I think it's almost immaterial, right? The place is sold out, so it doesn't matter. Yeah. So it doesn't matter if he wins or loses. But I think national coverage and things changes.
It's going to change the excitement level for sure. Some of those sold out seats may be up on some ticket seller for a inflated rate should there be a Triple Crown on the line, I would think.
You think there was some speculative purchases?
Well, I think they would become that should there be a Triple Crown. If somebody's sitting there going, well, it was going to be fun, but $1,000 might be more fun or whatever. But we shall see. I'm certainly rooting for him, but I went another door. We'll see that later. But
well, we're going to find out today.
And again, nice day yesterday. Nice stakes day yesterday. Cherie DeVaux. I would say Anecdotally, I want to say the last 6 months, but I'm not. I would have to go back and look. But she's really come into her own. It was just a huge day for her.
One of the few
local connections and whatnot. And
one of the few times I was ahead of the curve with her.
I had her on the show right after she went on her own at Saratoga a few years ago, and she missed by about that much later in the day to get her first win. And then I think it was another month or so before it happened. But I can remember, be like, oh, shit, I had her on the show this morning. Just came up short. All right, you ready?
I am. The big A? Yes, absolutely.
I will, before we get into the handicapping, I'll remind folks today here at the Clubhouse Racebook, I'm going to have a Preakness Day bankroll. So if you come on down, put your name in the hat early, and we'll select a team. I'll be playing on behalf of the team all afternoon, hopefully knocking it out of the park. Preakness Day bankroll, that's this afternoon right here. Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue in Albany. Also, the same spot, don't forget, if you'd like tickets for Belmont Stakes Day. Speaking of that, if you don't have tickets for up the Northway on Belmont Stakes Day, come watch the race here. You can reserve a seat now. Come on into the Clubhouse Racebook. Reserve a seat. $10 gets you admission, seat, souvenir program, commemorative glass, Belmont Stakes Day, June 8th here at the Racebook, 711 Central Avenue in Albany. All right, let's jump into it. Belmont at the Big A. The opener today, 12:35. The opener, Pimlico, by the way, 10:30. That's why we have the late or the early start this morning. But Belmont at the Big A's opener. Conditional claimers, they'll go the one-turn mile.
4-5-1. What was it on Thursday? Linda Rice and Jose Loscano, 3 in a row.
Yeah, I think
that's just not something you see very often. I don't know how many times 20 years ago we had Pletcher and Velasquez 3 in a row, but Linda and Jose 3 in a row on Thursday. 4-5-1 as I tip my hand here. Gun Maestro is my top pick coming off of the W in the 2L, and Linda, she doesn't win at 20% for nothing. Goes right into the 3L condition with this offspring of Gun Runner. For a second, right next door, number 5, making second start since coming up from Florida and running on the synthetic. I like the debut going the one-turn mile, and for third, Union Lights for Wayne Potts. 4-5-1 in the Big A's opener.
I like that Gun Runner out of Stradivarius, Gun Maestro. Second race today, Belmont at the Big A, state-bred maiden claimers. Again, the one-turn mile.
I think, was it Stradivarius? He was a good, besides the violin, he was like a Tabor runner. Yeah, he was, I think he came to the United States for one of those last stop before the breeding shed thing. 3-5-1. Yeah, I mean, the race goes through 10-10, but I've said this many times before. This horse debuted for a tag at 4-1 and raced very well. And as the buyer figure of 57 does tower over everybody. But 3-5, I'm like, if I get a regression with top 10 and Dancing Liana improves off the 40, I mean, have at it with 10-10, number 5 at 3-5. Or I actually have to tell you, I am going to be intrigued because my first inclination is you'll get a better price on 10-10, the 5. But now I'm starting to think, as you have taught me, the power of these buyers' speed figures, you might get a worse one. But I'm the race goes through 10-10, but I'm looking for an upset here. And then Jingle Jangle, Linda Rice's other runner, second time in for a tag, second start of the year. I expect to see improvement. But boy, I don't foresee, Seth, that I will ever put together a spreadsheet, but maiden claimers might be the spot where I'm least vested in a 3-5 shot. Maybe it's where he's supposed to be the most vested. I don't know. What's your thought?
I'm right with you. I mean, I think the horse has the edge on the bunch. It's not a huge edge given the first race by Dancing Liana. But I sit in here in the afternoon and I look up, and yeah, a maiden claimer to get a price is maybe the most likely winner.
By far the most likely winner.
But the prices that these horses get crushed at these days just.
And I'm going to be very intrigued to see what direction the New York bettor goes.
I will be too. I think David Aragona is probably right on, but I could see the tipping a point or two, at 2 to 5 or 4 to 5. I could see.
I have to tell you, I can honestly see at 1 to 5. I mean, just the way the New York bettors are.
I looked up the other day in here, and there was a horse that was 4 to 5 or something on the morning. It might have been yesterday. 1 to 9. That's Secretariat going up against 20 claimers. 1 to 9. Yikes! But these days, they crush the favorites.
Did I ever tell you one of the things I always wondered if it ever had happened? I always wondered if a 1 to 10 shot or 1 to 9 ever debuted at that price. And I presume the answer had to be no. Gamine did. Gamine was 1 to 9 in her debut. She won too. But I was like,
word was out.
Yeah.
Third race, Belmont at the Big A. Again, conditional claimers. This time they'll go 6.5.
2-6-1 for me in the third race, going out to Majestic Art. Third race in a cycle. I like the first two. Broke the maiden in open company for this New York bred, and then went to this level, which I think was brilliant. And I thought raced well. Forget the 52-1. That's gone. But the third race, second time versus winners, Majestic Art, the deuce, my top pick. Quick Hammer, number 6, going out for Ray Handel. Had a good win the other day. Finished a second at this level. But for 16, actually at this level, 2 races back, got dusted by the pace. And then number 1, Very Funny, Mike Maker's runner, 8 to 5 on the board. I think you'll get less. Now, here's an example, Seth, so in the last race, Very Funny got a 68. And I do think when you talk about buyer speed figures, I think the last race is like 80% of their thought. Well, Majestic Art got a 68 also. They're 8 to 5, 8 to 1, 2-6-1.
The fourth race this afternoon, State Bred Maiden Specials, 6.5 furlongs.
2-4-5. As I looked at this race, and Shlomo, I mean, 4 to 5 here, has already lost twice. I mean, once again, for horizontal players, I love to be in their heads for this. But I took Royal Brownie, Dutrow, first timer, and offspring of Big Brown for the upset. I mean, the race goes to Shlomo, but Shlomo ran a 66 on debut at 7 to 1, and then came back at 1/5 the price and ran second, got an appreciably better buyer speed figure, and then for third, he has it all. I will say this, as much as 10-10 is 3 to 5, Seth, and Shlomo is 4 to 5, thus I have more faith that Shlomo beats me than 10-10.
Yeah, go
Shlomo really, if I was apt to putting odds on horses on top, I would have put Shlomo before I would put 10-10.
Fifth race this afternoon, State Bred optional claimers with the non-winners of 2 other than a choice of the condition. They're scheduled for 6 furlongs on the grass.
And I did something I rarely do here. I did the old newspaper thing. I put the MTO on top because if it came off, the 11 would be a stick out in this race. So for me, for the turf race that I'm expecting to get, 2, 3, 2, 4 would be the races I like. Market Alert is an MTO that would probably be odds on in this race. But City Mischief, to me, boy, Mark Cassie's runner, 1 start this year, an offspring of Into Mischief, is to me a very reliable sprinter of the turf domain. I think this horse is consistently performs in the middle 80s, regardless of whether it's synthetic or turf. And I think I'm going to get City Mischief with Dylan Davis and Mark Cassie on top. And then 26 black, I presume if you play roulette, 26 is probably black. I told her never to call you during the show. Didn't you get the message?
Damn it.
Horatio DePaz sends out the runner and then works for me third. 11-3-2 officially on the board.
All right, and we'll also be rooting for our friends at Eddie Epps with Dream Point in there. We always like to root for the local ownership groups. By
the way, you sent me a text. I wasn't the one that hit the thing. Eddie was.
Oh, okay.
I saw that. Seth sent me. In case you haven't seen it, you have to see it.
I remember.
Yeah. And matter of fact, we were in dinner. Denise and I went to dinner last night at Saratoga. We went by the track in daylight, coming and going. But Seth sent me a picture of the other day, and subsequently I've seen a video out of what the first floor clubhouse looks like, and it is a dramatic change. And he said gone is the area where Eddie F. used to. It was brilliantly painted white with 4 televisions.
Painted white at the beginning of the season.
2/3 of the way through the meet, bottom left was grayish black because Eddie F. would be hitting his program on that lower left-hand corner. So,
it looks like a major change, that bottom floor.
And one thing I will say, and I'm okay with this. It had a lot of TVs, which I like because TVs are information, but it completely lost the luster of that old racetrack feel, which is okay.
I'm mixed on it. Yeah, it was the big screen TV, which shrunk to kind of a lesser big screen TV in recent years. But a lot of owners would come in from the paddock and would watch there. Owners and trainers would watch there, and I wonder how that's going to change up. And there was still something there that I think there's still maybe a TV there. We'll see. It looks like a big.
I'm hoping there's hamburgers on that grill.
Well, there is a new food section, and
I wonder where they put the Horseman's bookkeeper.
A lot of people, not to be indelicate, but a lot of people, and I agree, they took out a men's room right there, and I
saw that too. I'm like, very convenient.
All right. Before we go to the break, we'll do the 6th at Belmont at the Big A. Starter allowance types going 9 furlongs. 5-3-2
for me. Night Effect gets my top pick. Very sharp of late. Sharp going 2 turn. Just got beat at 4-1 at this level. Strapped number 3 for Linda makes the seasonal debut. And Andy Cant goes out for Rob Atras, who is, clearly after I thought having a middling 2023 is having a white hot 2024. 5-3-2 in the 6th.
All right, let's head to a break. When we come back, more Belmont at the Big A, and a little bit later, Preakness Day at Pimlico. Stay tuned.
Sometimes it pays to go with the flow, to check your worries at the door, to reconnect with your crew, to follow the thrills and the flavor, to roll with it and see where it takes you, to enjoy every minute to its fullest, and to dance like there's no tomorrow. You can do that here at Rivers Casino and Resort Schenectady, where the good times flow.
It only takes one upset to make history, and now you can be part of Saratoga's long tradition at the Dark Horse Mercantile. The Dark Horse Mercantile offers a carefully curated selection of clothing, gifts, and home decor, from one-of-a-kind vintage racing memorabilia to select brands like Barber and Under Armour, as well as exclusive Dark Horse branded merchandise. So celebrate the Dark Horse in all of us at the Dark Horse Mercantile, downtown Saratoga, where the smart bet is always the Dark Horse.
Come on.
I want sales reports on my desk by Monday.
Oops. My bad.
Love racing? RTN brings you every live simulcast on your home television, plus live video streaming and race replays on your PC and mobile devices. To order, visit rtn.tv. RTN, a breed apart.
Welcome back to the Handicappers Report. Seth, Merrow, Anthony, Mormino, taking a look at Belmont at the Big A currently. But again, we'll do Preakness Day at Pimlico in just a few. But we'll continue down in New York. 7th race today. We're looking at plain vanilla claimers. Again, the 1-turn mile.
3-4-2, all about the money. You betcha here. Coming back after running mediocrely at 32,000. Hasn't bet at this level for a while. But the last time running for a quarter, ding, ding, down the road. For second, digital number 4. Going out for Linda Rice. Now, this is a claim back, couple races removed for Linda Rice, which many of us old-timers love that in the claiming game when you want your runner back. Digital is going to be heck to pay in this race. And then 6%. Is that a housing? Is that what real estate people make, 6%?
Used to.
I mean, it's changed. 3-4-2. But it's kind of an odd number. But I think that used to be a relevant number in the real estate game, 6%.
Up until fairly recently.
Yeah, about 120 days ago, it got chopped.
8th race, Belmont at the Big A, an allowance event, non-winners who won other than 1 mile on the grass.
For me, probably the toughest race on the card. 8, 9, 7, and I'm out, on the inner, tight post. The rail is at 9. They're reporting 8, 9, 7 for me, and I could have scrambled these up. The 7 I thought could be heck to pay, going from Shug to Todd Pletcher making the seasonal debut. But at the end, I took Scramble because Scramble was the highest morning line price, making the second start of the year, 1 start since September. I like the effort at Gulfstream Park for Barkley Tag for second. Alexis Zorba going out for Mike Maker. Raced well in the sprint coming back. Now, that was April 28th. I actually think ran too well in the comeback race for this mile effort. And for third, Operation Torch changes barn, the offspring of Warfront, 8, 9, 7 in a very competitive 8th.
9th race this afternoon, we have stakes action. It's the Vagrancy Grade 3 event, $175,000 up for grabs. Fillies and Mares going 6.5.
The form doesn't put how many runnings it is anymore, at least in the ones I download.
They did, right?
That was a big thing. But the Vagrancy is a very old stakes race in New York. This is, I don't know if it's reached 100, but I could go on Naira's website. They still list it. But the Vagrancy is a long-standing stakes race in New York. 5-2-6. Leave no trace for the upset for me, for Phil Serpy, making the first start since the 2X win on St. Patrick's Day. Big Pond for second, going out for Bill Mott, coming out of the Madison, which is a young filly and mare sprint grade 1, but it might be the most notable one early in the season. The waters were too deep, and for third, Begin, 5-2-6 in this year's Vagrancy.
Race number 10 this afternoon down in New York. It is a state-bred allowance event. Again, 3/4 of a mile on the turf.
7-5-3 for me. Graham, 6-1, but one of my favorite horses on the card today, going out for Clement. First start since early November. Dusk making the first start of the year for Horatio DePaz. First time versus winners. And for third, Stolen Future. First start since June. And the reason I mention these is, hopefully if you've been following along, I don't care about layoffs anymore. Seth, I have to say it's one of the biggest pivots in my handicapping. Other things have been evolutions, but this was a strong pivot for me, 7-5-3.
Yeah, it's changed, no question about it. 11th and final today, Belmont at the Big A, scheduled to go off at about 5:39. We're looking at a grass race, mile and a 16th for maiden specials.
And I'm guessing that I forgot to send this along to my guys in here, but I am 4-2-8 in here. And Sunday Tip to me is a sneaky good first-time starter. Connect is a son of Curlin. Very sneaky, I think. And you have to be, this game rewards you for being ahead of the curve, whether it's trainers before they get hot. Stallion, Seth is almost always ahead of the curve with that type of data. Big, beautiful, big price for Anthony Dutrow, throw out the debut. And then our finest hour for Mike Maker taking over the training. So it's 4-2-8 in the finale.
Tom Morley had a good-looking first start a couple of days ago. I can't think of the name now, but it was
and he is
debut.
Newish into the Naira circuit the last 24 months. Oh, no, I'm having him mixed up with a different trainer, Bill Morey, not Tom Morley.
Yeah.
Bill Morey is you. But Tom had a really good year like 2 years ago, etc. Yeah. And you notice that we said this because we happen to know them. Their operation had to change. Like he doesn't go to the fairgrounds anymore, right?
I think they had a few runners down there this year. But was it a couple years ago? Didn't he win the Secretariat on the million undercard?
I think he did.
Yeah. All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, we'll shift our attention down to Maryland. Big day at Pimlico, Preakness Day. Stay tuned.
Haven't signed up for a Capital OTB account yet? Now's the time to take advantage of the sign-up bonus. Open up a new account with $200 or more, bet $400 by the end of the month, and receive a bonus $200 into your account. Plus, you can take advantage of everything an OTB account has to offer. Wagering from any device, live streaming, racing info, past performances, online promotions, and more. Sign up today and take advantage of the new account bonus. Details at capitalotb.com.
Want to get your career in horse racing off to a fast start? Well, the University of Arizona's Racetrack Industry Program is your winning ticket. The Racetrack Industry Program has served as a springboard to some of the industry's most successful individuals, with a proven track record of job placement right out of college. If you want to earn a degree in the exciting horse racing industry, the Racetrack Industry Program can put you in the winner's circle.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Turn our attention to.
Let me just jump in because I
Yes.
looked it up. Donegal Momentum was the nice runner,
Okay.
debut runner, and Carrick was his secretariat runner.
Good runner, good turf runner. And I've been to 5 or 6 Preaknesses. I was there for Easy Goer and Sunday Silence.
Were you there for Pegasus?
No, that would not be my cup of tea. As obviously I'm a. Oh, I'll tell you a funny.
Talking about a PR, whatever.
I'll tell you a funny story about that kind of idea. So this was 91, maybe. So my 2 best friends and I were jacket and tie. Were coming through, and the people in the infield area and the school buses and everything, like it's a warm spring day often in Baltimore for this, and they're like, "Oh, you're gonna be piping high, you're gonna sweat." I go, "Not where we're going. There's air conditioning in Pimlico." I was telling Seth, I've been to 5 or 6. I think it's awesome, but doesn't quite have the juice. But it's their day.
Pegasus, I think, lasted a couple, maybe 3 years.
Yes, 3
If you don't know, if you're not familiar, Google it.
Yes, that's all you do. That's all we're going to spend on it. But second jewel of the Triple Crown, we will see. First up, 5 furlong turf straight. I have to say, before yesterday, every single turf race had been off the turf at this meet so far.
And I do have dirt selections on the one sheet. If it goes in that direction, you can pull up the one sheet over on the website. This race, I didn't change one way or the other. There was nothing that stood out, turf or dirt, to switch up. So selections are the same either way. 9, 1, 4, and 7. Lieutenant General on top. Going out for Wesley Ward. It's a turf sprinter from Wesley Ward. Now, they did start the career on the dirt, going a mile at Mahoney back in January, and then followed up at Keeneland. I thought the Keeneland race was an improved effort, number-wise, certainly. Horses by Omaha Beach. And check out the breeding. By Omaha Beach out of Lady Shipman. So this is a well-bred horse. Now, obviously, not quite living up to that, or I don't think they would have made the debut at Mahoney in January. But I think it's interesting here, now switching over in the third career start to a turf sprint for Wesley Ward. Irish Heartbeat in the second spot. Mike Maker, Luis Saez, debut effort down at Gulfstream was pretty good, sprinting on the turf. Then tried the synthetic. Didn't fare quite as well. Could have been a couple of things. Could have just been a little bounce off the debut. Could have been the switch to the synthetic. We get back to the turf today. Bullet workout coming in. I think this one very playable this afternoon as well. And Master of Malice. Second place finish in the debut for Brittany Russell. That was last June at Delaware. This is the kind that I always think have the potential to come back with some improvement. Showed a little something in debut, took a long time off, now comes back being lightly raced. Wouldn't be shocked to see this one move forward, and you're getting a decent 8-1 on the morning line. I think given the layoff, the price will hold up. In the opener at Pimlico, 9, 1, 4, and 7.
Russell and Russell off to a nice early start at Pimlico. On to the second entry-level allowance, 8.5 on the turf.
2, 4, 8, and 5. Pork Rolls on top goes out for Graham Motion off 2 nice starts. Debut down at Gulfstream. Nice gutsy nose win in the debut. And then tries Allowance Company at Keeneland and just misses there in the second career start. Offered up a little bit of a price in both of those. Not going to be the price today, though. Johnny Velasquez jumps on board, but off the first 2 Nice improving efforts, could be primed to move forward yet again. Second spot, Breakwater, closed nicely last time down at Tampa to be a pretty good second behind a next out winner. Shug has this one coming in off some works at Belmont. I think given what we saw to start the season at Pimlico, at Tampa, on the move to Pimlico, I think that bodes well for this afternoon. That Tampa race, the seasonal debut, lifetime best buyer as well. Chelonian in the third spot, Jamie Ness runner. Tried the turf last time for only the second time in the career. The first turf race was a win. Then they went back to the dirt for an extended period, returned to the turf last time, closed and just missed. So it kind of a head scratcher that they've had so many races on the dirt, although the horse overall is, 9 exacta finishes and 22 starts. You can't complain too much about that. But I think coming back on the dirt again today puts that horse squarely in the conversation. In the second at Pimlico, 2-4, 8 and 5.
On to the third, we get to the dirt for the first time, going 6 entry-level allowance.
5, 7, 1, and 2. I'm going to put Magic Express on top. It is the aforementioned Brittany Russell. This time, Luis Saez on board. The maiden breaker was pretty good at Aqueduct back in March and then came back in mid-April, facing obviously tougher allowance types at Keeneland. It was also on a sloppy sealed track, ran fourth in there. I think the horse is probably better than that fourth place finish. But again, I say it all the time. Sometimes you move up a condition. It takes you a start or two to figure it out. And so this horse probably benefits from that start last time against allowance types. Nasty Habit in the second spot. Nice little record coming into the last start at Laurel. Was running second, first, third, second, and ran third last time. So it wasn't a horrible effort. It's just the buyer number went back a little bit. But I think this horse is intriguing in here this afternoon, given what we saw in those races just prior. And then in the third spot, Miramati. Of course, in honor of Frank Miramati, I'm sure he will be paying plenty of attention. He tweeted out almost immediately when this one hit the entries. It's a Bob Baffert runner coming in from Southern California, has not been seen since last year, goes out for Starlight Racing and Company. They paid over $1 million for this horse. Clearly hasn't quite lived up to it yet, but in the seasonal debut, this horse may be cleverly spotted here in Maryland. In the third, 5, 7, 1, and 2.
On to the fourth race. We have our stakes action getting underway. Fillies and Mares in the ski pat.
3, 4, 6, and 7. I'm going to put Disco Ebo on top, or Ebo comes in off a stakes win at Laurel. Based in Pennsylvania Parks, it's a Butch Reed runner. I said it a few days ago. Butch Reed kind of invaded New York this winter with these Parks types and got the job done on a number of occasions. And I think this is another one of the Parks-based runners that can go out and face this type of company and do it successfully. I'm intrigued that Irad Ortiz was attracted to ride. I think this one is coming in live, having won half of the 22 career starts. Apple Picker in the second spot, won the Barbara Fritchie 2 starts back, then went up and tried the Distaff at Aqueduct. Didn't fare quite as well there, running fourth, but I'm more attracted to that Barbara Fritchie win 2 back. I think we stand a real chance of kind of getting back to that with the return down to Maryland, and Pimlico, where the horse has a win in only 1 try, so has shown a little bit of affinity, won a stakes race here towards the end of last year. So again, has done a little something to kind of hang your hat on in Maryland to Pimlico. And Sweet Child of Mine in the third spot. Nice front end score, 2 starts back. Last time tried it again, was on the front end for much of the trip before fading a little bit. But last time was a mile, 2 starts back was the win. With the win was 6 furlongs, and we're back at 6 today. So should get closer to what we saw 2 back, I would think. In the fourth, 3, 4, 6, and 7.
Are you familiar with Sweet Child of Mine?
It's the song
Guns N' Roses.
Guns N' Roses.
Yes, very good.
But that's Child. This is Child.
Child.
And I
right.
looked at the breeding to kind of figure out where they were coming
Where
with
they
that,
went with
and I
it?
could not. Mineshaft out of to be determined. So I wasn't quite sure why they made the spelling switch.
Okay. On to the fifth. We get back to the turf, going 5 furlongs, maiden special weights.
8, 7, 2, and 5 up for it. Good little second, 2 starts back, and then followed it up with a 5th place finish, but a close-up 5th place finish. Paired up the buyers. Those were back in December and January. To me, the layoff's a little bit of a concern. But again, this is one of those where I think relatively lightly raced with only 7 starts, gets a break like this, maybe comes back improved. There was a nice little workout back on April 27th at Fairhill. I think this horse could be primed for a nice effort. Again, 6-1 on the morning line. Rice File goes out for Brittany Russell, attracting Irod Ortiz on board this one. Off the debut, I think this horse will take action, probably deservedly so. It's a pretty good-looking debut. I think there's a little bit of breeding there that says this is could wind up being a win early type. But there are plenty of things to like. And Miriam Cross in the 3rd spot. Getting back to a turf sprint, I think, is going to wake this horse up for a Graham Motion. Last time showed some early speed before fading late. 1/16 on the synthetic. The turf sprint to start the career, and then the follow-up to that, I think both kind of shake it up with this group and should be interesting. In the 5th, Pimlico, 8, 7, 2, and 5.
On to the 6th, right? Mr. Preakness, right? Is that what they call Chick Lang?
Oh, I don't know. Yeah,
I think he's Mr. Preakness.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Going 6 furlongs.
3, 6, 1, and 2. Pettengas twin. I looked it up. I think it's some kind of fish, Pettenga. So I have no idea, again, how to take charge Indian Summer Punch. There's something else to the story. But regardless of the name, this is a horse, plenty of talent, but you always worry about this kind of a look. 6 starts, 1 win, 5 seconds. And you just start to get the feeling they don't like to push on by. But not only pushed on by, won by open lengths, 2 starts back.
How much have they bankrolled?
75,000.
Owner's got a big smile ear to ear.
Yeah.
Because he gets to run in the same conditions.
Paid 52, and they get 75. But they broke the maiden 2 back, as I say, nicely, and then followed it up running second again in the follow-up and optional claim or non-winners. I think this is a nice spot to take the shot at Stakes Company. And I will say, days like this, you always see 1 or 2 of the races where the locals do very well and perhaps win. And so being a Maryland-based horse, this may be the horse on this Preakness Saturday. Frost Free, coming in from Oaklawn. I like the Oaklawn shippers this time of year as they go out to other venues. Irod Ortiz hops on board, and this one, a good second in the stake last time at Oaklawn. So again, I think brings in that venue class move that I find intriguing. And then Mr. Skylight in the 3rd spot, Riley Mott runner that has done very well in the first 3 career starts. Done well in a fashion that I think, again, says this horse moving in the right direction and perhaps continues that this afternoon. Certainly the latest workout, which is just 3 days ago, indicates this horse will be primed for a good effort. In the 6th, 3, 6, 1, and 2.
On to the 7th race. I think the Gallaret's one of the oldest races in America. I mean, this is the Gallaret for fillies and mares on the turf, 1:16.
3, 7, 2, and 5. And again, if things switch as far as the surface, you can go to the website and there are dirt selections on the 1 sheet. Click on the handicapping link, then look for Handicappers Report. But 3, 7, 2, and 5, Blissful on top. It's Cherie DeVoe. After the big day yesterday, I could see this horse continuing that good weekend for Cherie. This horse so far this year, 4 starts, a win, a second, and a couple of thirds, and comes in off a nice second last time at Keeneland and a win at the Fairgrounds. Moves into Stakes Company this afternoon. Has a couple of stakes further down, but moves into Stakes Company for the first time this season, and I think does it in good form. Brian Hernandez on board, who, of course, has been riding well the past few weeks. Fluffy Socks goes out for Chad Brown. You know, it's a Chad Brown turfer, and so obviously you have to pay attention. But I certainly, think the fact that you have to look down the PPs to find a win almost a year ago says that this horse is not at the upper echelon of the Chad contingent, but Irod Ortiz is on board, and with these connections, I don't think you can leave it out of the mix. Dana's Beauty in the third spot, Mike Maker runner. Luis Saez on board, comes in from a couple of tries at Turfway on the synthetic, including last time in a stakes race. I think this one will be playable in here with the move back to the grass, where the horses run okay in the past, and I think probably fits with this group this afternoon in the 7th. 3, 7, 2, and 5.
We'll take a quick break. When we come back, second half of today's action from Pimlico.
What if there was a way to become a better horse player, to have a better knowledge of the game, to be more successful? What if there were a way to take what you've learned, what you know, and make better decisions, better choices? In horse racing, knowledge is a powerful tool. Race results and replays, past performances and live streaming, wagering from all your digital devices. Capital OTB. Become a better horse player.
Sometimes it pays to go with the flow, to check your worries at the door, to reconnect with your crew, to follow the thrills and the flavor, to roll with it and see where it takes you, to enjoy every minute to its fullest, and to dance like there's no tomorrow. You can do that here at Rivers Casino and Resort Schenectady, where the good times flow.
It's been referred to as possibly the best equine-themed gift shop on the planet. Impressions of Saratoga. Impressions of Saratoga, celebrating the Saratoga and equestrian lifestyles. It's your number one choice for Saratoga souvenirs, apparel, and gift shopping. We have gifts for the entire family, and we're pet-friendly too. Visit us online at impressionssaratoga.com or come on down. Impressions of Saratoga, 368 Broadway, downtown Saratoga.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Race number 8. For those of us been around a long time, I call this the Artex Memorial Handicap.
Oh, wow. Remember that? Yeah.
Absolutely. How do you ever forget that?
It's got to be on YouTube.
Oh,
right?
of course it is.
Folks don't remember that. Oh, wow. Yeah, I hadn't even thought about that in a long time.
The Maryland Sprint.
Yeah.
Actually, I think it was the Lucas horse, right? Yes, it's true. He was like 3 to 5 that day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But somebody runs on the
a
track
drunk guy
tries to
throw a punch at a horse.
It's crazy. Really crazy. 4, 3, 1, and 2 for me. I'm going to go with Jackson Traveler, the West Point horse from Steve Asmussen. Nice winner in an Oaklawn Stake 2-back. And then last time in another Oaklawn Stake, Skelly was just phenomenal that afternoon. I like Tejano Twist. That one ran second, but Skelly was very, very good. And Jackson Traveler was, 12 lengths back. I think this is a group that's probably more like what he faced in the Whitmore. And I think if he gets in with the right kind of competition, I think Jackson Traveler's a nice little stakes quality sprinter for the West Point folks. I think he can do it today. Super Chow. This is a nice stakes quality sprinter, has been throughout the career, 12 exacta finishes and 18 starts, comes out of a third in the Carter last time, a nice win in the Tom Fool before that. The Tom Fool was at 6, the Carter's at 7. Today we're at 6, so he gets back to probably the trip he prefers, or at least has in the last couple of starts. Coastal Mission in the third spot. Nice winner of a stake at Laurel last time, and did it with a triple-digit buyer. Now, that triple-digit buyer kind of jumps off the page and has the look of maybe something of an aberration, but I can't ignore it. I think the horse is in good form. In the 8th, 4, 3, 1, and 2.
On to the 9th, a mile on the turf, the James Murphy.
10, 9, 12, and 5. The one Lucky Jeremy at 10 to 1, Mike Maker trainee. I wouldn't ignore that one either, certainly if the morning line holds up or floats further. But I went with Abramar on top, Safi Joseph runner, Irad Ortiz on board. Relatively lightly raced runner, but 3 wins and 5 starts. Now, tossed in a clunker last time in the American turf. That has to make you scratch your head a little bit. But I think it just has the look of the horses better than what we saw last time. That does look like an aberration to me. The number went back significantly. I think if we rebound, we're right in the thick of things. All of that said, I'm not thrilled about this post position at a mile on the turf, but I'll hope Irod Ortiz can help with that, help to mitigate that. Echo Lane in the second spot. We're also towards the outside. And so, again, the post position doesn't thrill me, but comes in having won 3 of the last 5, 2 of the last 2. Trice Stakes Company here does have a stake on the resume further down. That was fairly early in the career. Didn't do that well that day, but also seems to have improved with the turf start. So, that last stake was a while ago on the dirt. I think this horse is going to be a square fit in here. And then in the third slot, we're going to go out to the 12 Fulmineo. A couple of second place finishes recently, including a little stake at Tampa 2 back. I think the Arnaud Delacour horse is also a player. But again, I'm stuck outside. I may totally regret this. And again, underneath in my mix, I have the number 5 Speediness, the number 1 Lucky Jeremy. On the post positions, they may be a little more attractive by the time things are all said and done. But in the 9th, I went 10, 9, 12, and 5.
On to the 10th. Speaking of Triple Crown, the Sir Barton.
8, 10, 5, and 6. Number 8, Tuscan Sky. Todd Pletcher runner. That, again, another one I think better than we saw last time. I think the first couple of starts of the career, Maiden Breaker at Aqueduct, and then they went down to the fairgrounds and won a non-winner. So won both very nicely, both improved, both with solid numbers. And then they tried the Wood Memorial and just came up with a dud. And it's such a dud. Again, I think it's the aberration. I think this is a nice spot to get back and maybe move towards regaining the confidence that this horse built after the first couple. Tuscan Sky on top. Second slot will go out to number 10, Imperial Gun for Steve Asmussen. Finished second in the Bathhouse Row, one of the late season stakes down at Oaklawn. And as I said earlier, I like the Oaklawn shippers as they move out. This one was well beaten in the Arkansas Derby, but going there shows they had some confidence. And I think that confidence was, validated with the near miss in the follow-up. And I think it will be a good run from Imperial Gun again today. Corporate Power going out for Shug. 4th career start today. Nice series of improving numbers over the past few. Broke the maiden 2 back. Got a little experience against limited winners last time. Should fit with these in the Sir Barton. 8, 10, 5, and 6.
On to the 11th, the Jim McKay Turf Sprint.
11, 12, 10, and 9. At this sprint distance, I'm a little less concerned about the outside posts. They are no bonus, but you have, the back stretch to find some position. You're not getting hung out on 2 turns. You don't have that potential as compared to the 2-turn races. I'm going to go 11, 12, 10, and 9, as I say, with 11 Witty on top. Trained, owned, and bred by Elizabeth Merriman, if the name sounds familiar. She had Caravel a few years back, and on this weekend in 2021, Caravel won a turf sprint stake. And so she has done it before on this weekend, and I think she can do it with Witty, who she bred, trains, and owns in a follow-up to the good performance by the talented Caravel a couple of years ago. Comes out of a seasonal debut, stakes win, sprinting on the turf at Laurel. I think is set up nicely this afternoon. Witty on top. Beer Can Man, based out in Southern California for Phil D'Amato, came east in the seasonal debut and was dusted in the Shakertown. Had the horse done anything in there? I might have tilted towards this horse because the back numbers are very good, but I wasn't quite sure what to make. Now, there was some trouble in there. That may mitigate the bad finishing position, and this horse may rebound nicely today. But I was just a little bit concerned. Wasn't going to leave it out, but did put it underneath. Charging in the 3rd spot, just behind my top pick, Witty, last time in the Leatherberry at Laurel. Should be a player again today. Tom Morley and Irod Ortiz in the 11th at Pimlico. 11, 12, 10, and 9.
12th race on the card, scheduled to go off at 5:52, the dinner party.
9, 7, 10, and 5. Number 9 is Beatbox. It's Cherie DeVoe. Joel Rosario on board. Last seen in a couple of starts down at the fairgrounds, won a stake, and then ran 4th last time. But you look at the numbers this horse typically throws, I think is a square fit in here this afternoon. And again, Cherie DeVoe, based on yesterday, having a pretty good weekend. At Hamo in the second spot, it's a Chad Brown runner. Like the Chad Brown runner I mentioned a little bit earlier, you got to search a little bit to find the last win, but it is Chad Brown and company, and there is some talent, and horse does typically throw numbers that are going to mix it up again with this group. So I'll put out at Hamo in the mix. And then in the third spot, Emmanuel, talented, but kind of enigmatic runner for Todd Pletcher in that runs big, runs off the board. It's hard to know which Emmanuel you might get, but if we get the good one, obviously a very, very serious player in here today. 12th at Pimlico, the dinner party, 9, 7, 10, and 5.
And about 65 minutes later, the Preakness.
I'm going to go 3, 5, 8, and 9. We alluded to it earlier. Like a lot of people, I am rooting for Mystic Dan, and I would not be at all shocked to see Mystic Dan get it done. That was a nice gutsy performance in the Kentucky Derby, and at about 1 mile and 3/16, he had a bigger lead than he had at the end. So we'll see how it works out. But I'm going to go with Catching Freedom. This horse had some trouble in the Derby, still ran a very good race. The word the last few days when he's been out in the morning, he's looked very good, that they elect to come back and take this spot here off that nice performance in the Derby. I'm going to look for Catching Freedom to maybe get it done, but I have Mystic Dan right underneath. As I say, I'm rooting for him so we get the Triple Crown try right up the Northway here. And I think off the Derby, he is dangerous. He's been reported to be working decently as well. And then Tuscan Gold in the third spot. I might have tilted towards the Chad Brown runner. I think he's going to be very dangerous this afternoon. Won't be at all shocked if he wins. But, boy, that's a long layoff. Hasn't been seen since the Louisiana Derby. Now, it's Chad Brown and a layoff like this. Of trainers I would trust most layoffs like this, Chad Brown is right up at the top of the list. So I expect him to run very well. But again, the layoff had me a little bit concerned. I will say it seems like some people have said, Tuscan Gold is going to be the wise guy horse. From listening to people this week, I think Just Steel is winding up to be the wise guy horse in here. He's getting a lot of mentions this week. I didn't use him, but fun story if Wayne Lucas wound up winning the Preakness. But I have a 3, 5, 8, and 9.
Last time I did a bankroll on Preakness Day was Oxbow's Day. For the record, I'm jumping out of my skin for Tuscan Gold. I think, I'd take half the price. In the 14th race at about 7:45 to 8, entry level, 2X.
7, 1, 6, and 5. Union Fleet on top. Nice win, 2 back. Tried a little stakes company last time, still ran well. But getting back to this level, I think is going to be tough. Second spot, Armando R. comes in off a couple of good tries himself, and I think is set up in this good form to be a player. And It's Viper going out for Brittany Russell with husband Sheldon on board. I think fits with this group. The top two look to have a little edge to me. And at 5-1 Union Fleet, I think is very intriguing. I wonder if we'll get that off the 90 buyer last time, though. 14th and final at Pimlico, 7-1, 6 and 5.
The old Anthony Mormino birthday, 716. Do you have a Racing Across America here?
No.
Okay.
Because I think they're going to start pretty soon. It's a 10:30 post, so we wanted to leave room for the pregame show down at Pimlico.
Just a quick note.
Shortly.
I think the Preakness is an incredibly attractive betting race today. Now, when you have an opinion on an 8-1 shot, that's usually the case. I like Catching Freedom. I have Just Steel in the mix. I'll use Mystic Dan a little bit. But this is a real key on Tuscan Gold and using Catching Freedom underneath. But I have, I think the layoff is actually. I like this move for Chad Brown. Skip it, the Derby. I like the fact that in his first time versus winners, it was a big field. He got a lot of education. Obviously, I liked Anna Marie, who lost the iron right out of the gate, and I still thought ran just about the way I thought. I like Tuscan Gold very much here. I guess this is, kind of like the cloud computing for me a couple of years ago. This is, I'm very much like Tuscan Gold here in a big spot. I'm going to be intrigued on the price when it gets done. But
he'll take more action than the 8-1.
Yeah, that's not going to be. I mean, what was Gunsong yesterday? 9-2 on the morning line and 2-1 on the board. I mean, I think we're going to have that type of. I would take 5-1, quite frankly, and I think I'm going to be lucky to get that. But I think it's a great race. They, like other cards, they put it together. A lot of action for the people gathering. It looks like I don't know, I can't tell. Overcast day? Doesn't look sunny at 10 o'clock in the morning.
Sunny. There are no shadows there on the ground.
So we'll see. It's a long day once again. I don't know. I'd love to know what their answer is for the hour in between. I mean, is this the second most famous walkover ever? I mean, I have such empathy for the people at the racetrack, and I feel as if, Seth, in the very near future, I'm going to be one of those people at the racetrack with an hour and a half in between races.
Yeah,
I mean,
a lot of that, I think, is TV, too.
It has to be. Who else? Who at the track is going?
Yeah, more time.
More time. So hopefully.
Did you see, was it Carl Broberg, maybe, tweeted out yesterday a picture of, like, somebody had clearly marked all their bets, and there was a whole sheet of lined paper with a bunch, and he said something like, tip to people going to the track: if you're behind somebody with this sheet of paper, go to the next line.
Yes, I absolutely. And when I saw that, I was like, who stands in line anymore? Guys like that, or gals that have it on a paper, why are you going to the window? You're obviously not a first timer. I was shocked. I did see that, though. Yeah, they're not the people. The other people you don't want to be behind are the people that when their turn comes up, they kind of lean in like they're going to be there a while, having a conversation. You got to immediately dive off of that lane.
I also, since we're on this subject, the ones that get to me, and at Saratoga, I get it. They're all, they're new, but you walk up to the window and they're like, start flipping through their program like, I haven't decided yet. I'm deciding while I'm standing right.
I have to ask you something. When was the last time you stood in line?
I do it fairly often.
I know. Wow.
Because a lot of times I'll just run up. I pop out of the press box and I'm headed someplace, and so I'll just run over to a window. More often than not, I'll go to a machine. But I do still use the window.
Even a machine?
Well, are you playing on your phone?
Yeah, doesn't everybody play on their phone now?
When I'm up in the press box, I'll play on the computer a lot. But a lot of times, like I say, I'll be running around. And so.
Phone's even better then.
I don't play. I like my phone just to be my phone. I don't like the.
Oh, you are the old man. Get off the lawn. I can't believe a sentence I haven't heard in this century. I want my phone to just be my phone.
I mean, I text.
That's the last.
I do all the.
My wife has the best line. She goes, "Your phone's activity as a phone is like 23rd on the list." I go, "Yes, I have no. I do not want people to call me. It's my computer."
I was thinking of the other day.
What?
How many people have a landline?
We do.
Do you still have a landline?
But now it's two things. One, not that people need to know, but obviously I've been here a long time. It was mostly my mother-in-law who is subsequently passed 2 Augusts, the last week of two meets ago. So I think we're literally days away from me. It's really just for me to get the chance to confirm with Denise that she's okay scuttling it. And I think we're done. But it was mostly because of my mother-in-law, who was an older woman. But I think it's gone.
I think people still do, but I'm just curious what the percentage is.
I think we're done. I don't think young people, when they get an apartment, they never call.
No. Yeah.
Why do I need Verizon? I got my phone. But I like my phone that is the ultimate modern day old man, get off my lawn. I was like shocked. I can't tell you. I just want to make sure, director, is this okay? Or do you need me? Is it? Okay. I don't want to, we're kind of loose with time because we're good is what he's saying. So, I've had the pleasure of being at multiple Breeders' Cups with Brian Nadeau and some other guys. And if you've ever had the Breeders' Cup, it's crowded. But I'm like, we just converse. We don't ever break up the conversation to bet. Like, we're just like, you just stand there. And a couple of years ago when I, it took me about 6 races to get my money back betting against Gamine, but I beat her with CC and Edgeway in the exacta, and I had it a lot of times. And my buddy says to me, he's looking on his phone to see what the probable pay is, and he goes, your vacation's paid for. You're going to like this number when it comes up. Same type of number when cloud computing won. I still can't believe this. So when cloud computing won the Preakness, at the exacta came back $100. I was like, it was, $40 exacta in my mind's eye, but
those are the best kind of exactas.
Yes, and I always tell people at the Breeders' Cup, I'm an exacta and trifecta player, and I am considering. I'm more than considering. It's probably going to happen. I'm going to have the fund for playing the superfecta, and the reason I bring this up is I've said to people, one of the best betting advice I've ever gotten was a friend of mine said to me, Anthony, you got to get a bankroll to play your trifectas and bet the all button at the bottom. That's why you need the bankroll. And so I did the math and looked at, and it's incredible value. He said, you have to get the bankroll. He goes, you can have 5-to-1 shots fill out the superfecta. And if a horse is 5-to-1 to win, you got to figure he's 60 to 70% to run in the top 4. He goes, but you need the bankroll. So I think I'm gonna do that at the Breeders' Cup. And there's about 3 or 4 races you can't do it because it's short field, the distaff. But the other, I'll be there. The other thing I was starting to think of, and I thought about this when we did the Derby seminar. I teased Churchill Downs about eliminating the 10-cent supers for Derby and Oaks Day, but I thought about it. Adjusted for inflation, a dollar superfecta is like 30 cents from when I was a kid. And we didn't have, $1 today, as for a nearly 61-year-old man, is a lot less than $1 was when I was 21 years old. It's really not that much money. It's like, adjusted for inflation, we would have like nickel bets. Could you imagine going to the track in 1979 with a roll of nickels and having action?
The thing is, though, most of the time you're not playing super straight. So it was never going to be, Well,
what I'm saying is if there were dollar supers and, you played like $40 worth, it was like $13-15 when I first started going to the track. I'm like, it's so you think of 10-cent supers, that's like less than a penny. You just can't, you go with a roll of 50 pennies and you got action all day at the spa. How good is that?
Maybe they should have thought of that. That the tellers would not have liked that.
Well, there are no more tellers.
Yeah.
I guess there are some people that still. But I think it's going to be a great day of action. I'm intrigued by the card. I think it's a great betting race. I liked Anna Marie in the Derby very much, and I think if he had a better start, we would have had a better run. But I love Tuscan Gold today, and that's that intrigues. Did you see the doubles?
He's favored, I think.
No way.
I remember.
Tuscan Gold. Dan, is that true? I don't know. That's awful for me. Then that's a bad sign. He could be
Andy Serling, Tuscan Gold favored in the double. Oh, he's posted the favorite in the double.
He could be 5-2 then. Tuscan Gold. That's a little light.
Mystic Dan's paying 17. Tuscan Gold's paying 15.
I told my wife these Friday night date nights going out to dinner, they got to stop. All right, maybe
those are $1 prices.
We won't do it during the Triple Crown next year. Any thoughts?
Oh, I do want to remind people today here at the Clubhouse Racebook Preakness Day Bankroll. Love to have you stop on by.
Now, do you have a strategy? I always had a strategy. Not that it's important, and because I always played to my strength. My thing was I was always going to go hog wild on the the big race, the Preakness, trifectas, and things like that. Well, I told you a story about Palace Malice, right?
No.
It was the last time they ever invited me to do it. I think I won 7,000. But I said when they crossed the line, I said I have them all. Whatever exotics they put up, we have Palace Malice with everybody, the trifecta, the superfecta, the exacta. But that was my thing. Like I went slowly along until I had an opinion. And then
I could, with the weather, I didn't want to get
you got right.
anything. So
I would have done all right yesterday if I had a bankroll. Cherie DeVoe, like I said, one of the few things I've been ahead of the curve today. So
Shotgun Hottie certainly looked good.
Yes. So it'll be interesting, like with it already capped, Mystic Dan wins today, who I think has a chance. But I will say this. You want to know my thoughts on this? This goes back 21 years. I think Mystic Dan has a good shot today. I think Mystic Dan has no chance to win the Belmont Stakes. And I felt the same way with Funny Side. When Empire Maker decided not to run in the Preakness, which, by the way, is another example of why this doesn't work, where he skipped the Preakness, and I loved him that day. Whether it rained or not, I loved Empire Maker against Funny Side in the Belmont. And that's another example when you talk about the dynamics of this. I think if they were spread out, the old skipping one of the legs and ambushing would go the way of the dodo bird. You'd be like, you want to wait 8 weeks? Knock yourself out. I'm going to run 4 weeks from now, and I'm going to run for $3 million, and I'm going to have time in between it. You want to wait 8 weeks? No. So we'd take that angle out of it, where you'd be like, but the big part I have is too many good horses in the last 20 years have skipped the Preakness Stakes. And that's my biggest argument. I've said this before, and I actually got a few likes from the conservatives on the Triple Crown changing when I said, my argument is it would be a better race. And I've actually had people who don't want any change compliment that's a reasonable reason to change it, that it would be a better horse race.
Yeah.
And the fact that there is single-digit entrants in a 7-figure restricted race for 3-year-olds tells me a lot.
Yeah.
You want to run against olders in the fall for 7 figures, or you want to run against your own for 7 figures? That's and we were talking off the air. I've always felt the Preakness has lagged in the purse structure to give it its it should be a $3 million race.
Oh, you often hear, it's supposed to be hard. It's harder if they.
Yes, that's the argument. The argument doesn't hold up that it's hard.
It's supposed to be hard, but it's also not supposed
to
be
an
anachronism.
You think Mystic Dan is grateful that Sarah Leone isn't here today? Yes, thank you.
It's an anachronism these days, given that when I first got into the game, the Wood was 2 weeks before the Derby
at 126.
We talked about the last Keeneland race that would get you in.
The Lexington
was 10 days, right? 10 days out.
Well, you want to go really back? The Bluegrass was 9 when Ali Sheba won it. So we're not talking the dark ages. We had color TV in 1987, so it wasn't the dark ages, but it was 9 days out.
Just that went a long time ago, and trainers just don't like to play that game anymore, and so. It's to reflect that I could certainly see, but I'm the same in that I can make the argument either way. I don't mind it this way, but I think all the arguments against are.
Put it to you this way: if it was in 2 weeks from now, I think there'd be a full field, and if it was $3 million, it would be a full field. And I think by definition, that makes it a better horse race. Yeah. So I don't think there's any way. Not changing it ever makes it a better horse race.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And I think that's the object, right? We're looking for the best 3-year-olds to run against each other 3 times. And I think, you talk about it, by definition, having the best 3-year-olds run against each other makes it a better Triple Crown. This is, like I said, I'm going to be interested to wonder how many times NBC shows the finish and how they come out of it saying, well, 2 of those horses you just saw, they're not here today, but the winner is. And, I will say this. You want to know what broke the bank for me? My 2 fills last year, skipping it for the Ohio Derby. That was the straw. That was the straw for me, that a horse in a setup would skip the Preakness Stakes for something called the Ohio Derby. Speaking of the Ohio Derby, I've been following Thistle Downs because it's on the network. And I usually follow a very under-the-radar track for kicks and giggles. If you like favorites, Thistle Downs is for you. They have had days, Seth, where I think they've had 4 or 5 odds-on horses in their 8 or 9 race card. They love the favorites at Thistle Downs.
Did you see the first, 3 weeks at Hawthorne?
No, Hawthorne is not. Hawthorne in the past has been my under the radar, but I chose Thistle Downs this year. And I'll tell you why I chose Thistle Downs this year. They don't have turf racing, which I think is a bad idea, but it's easy for people that keep spreadsheets.
I don't think I'm going to be able to pull it up here because I don't really remember who tweeted it out. But
I mean, I could go back and make one for Hawthorne. It might not take too much time.
I want to say they were at 50%. And they're expecting that to change. They've had some short fields, and they haven't started turf racing yet.
Well, Thistle Downs might be at 50%, but I'd like to know what the mutual is at Hawthorne, because at Thistle Downs, it's about 50% at $3.80.
Well, I'm sure it's probably in the same.
Very low. They've had something happen that I do keep track of. This is amazing. In stakes action, there's been about 5 times in 40 years where there's been 2 odds-on horses in a race. Trust me.
I saw one the other day.
They have had 3 at Thistle Downs at this meet already.
Might have been at Thistle because they were doing Thistle on Wednesday.
Yes. They have had 3 races, and I have about 5 stakes races over the last 40 years that I've had it. All right, that's enough of me. I just dragged Seth through the mud. He's going, could this guy leave so I can get some peace and quiet? But it's Preakness Day. It looks overcast down at Pimlico. Hopefully the rain will stay away. It's a great betting card. I'll say that. I think the Preakness, now my fear is, honestly, Seth, he's going to open up at 5-2.
Well, given the
that's a problem.
Prices,
that's a problem. So have a great Preakness Day. Obviously a one-hole side, where's my glass?
There's no glass.
I'm kidding you. No glasses. My wife has broken through all the ones Shannon from marketing has given me through the years. I got to replenish them. But big day in racing. Hopefully the weather will hold off down there. So he's on board. The team's already picked?
No. It'll be picked this afternoon.
Ooh.
You come in today, you put your name in the
good luck.
bin and
knock it right out of the park.
That's going to be the game plan.
I've always said, if you've never done it, the most pressure-packed thing is when you're betting
for other people.
And so good luck to you, and we'll see you next time. But enjoy the Preakness Stakes, ladies and gentlemen.
ETB, a service of Capital Off-Track Betting.
That's a buy of 5. Steve Asmussen, Luis Saez, of course.
I'm hoping for a barbecue up front because I think that's what this colt needs. He's sort of a late-running sprinter, and last time out he ran in the Bachelor, a race controlled by front runners, and he was still staying on well to be third. You have a horse with tremendous speed in this race in the 6th Frost Free. In a blink of an eye, he could be clear. Or the number 1, Mr. Skylight, who went gate to wire last time out, pushes him. That's the key to the race. Does the 1 push the 6? If not, the 6 might be gone. If he does, it sets things off for horses like the 2 Kents by 5 and a horse like the 7 Catahoula Moon, who is very versatile.
Very versatile. And